check this out. I found a headset. I was listening to the microphone, like my audio in the last video, and it didn't sound very good. So I'm gonna give this a shot and see if it sounds any better. I'm like super pumped to have this headset on. I feel like way more important than I am. The only problem though is it's got a cord, so I don't want to run the machine while I'm corded up. But I figured maybe I could get some decent audio to talk about the parts on this tool. All right, so I'm gonna do is try to swing this camera around and show you what's going on. All right, so this lathe that we have here, most lathes are going to have the same parts. You just might see like the power in a different place on the lathe. But we're going to talk about these ones in particular. All right, so I want to start down here and talk about this stuff. We have our power switch right here. All right, and the power switch actually has a safety. That's why you see it in two different colors. If I pull out this yellow piece, you know what? Yep, there you go. If I pull out the yellow piece, it'll act like a key that will shut it off. Like if I'm working. So we have a safety on this yellow piece as well. There is a forward and reverse button right here. So I know it's hard to see in the video, but there's an R and an F. So that'll actually switch the direction that the lathe is spinning in. We usually leave ours on R, I believe, yep. All right, and then the next thing I want to point out is that there's a dial right here, okay? And then there's a small screen right there that says RPM. So we can control how fast our lathe is spinning. So if I turn it on real quick, now there's no part in it, but it's spinning really fast. I don't know if you can tell in the video. Right now it's spinning at about 1500 RPM. So I can turn this down extremely low. We're almost down to like 0 RPM. In general, we'll turn our small parts, something small like this, around 1,000 RPM. All right, so we can adjust all the settings on the lathe right down here using this section. So we have our power, our direction, and then our speed. All right, I'm gonna real quick turn this up to about 1,000. I'll leave it right there. All right, I'm gonna turn it off actually. Okay, so we have our controls over here. The next thing I want to do is talk about what's actually happening up in this section, our workspace. The very first thing I want to point out is that there is a head. So this is our head stock. And then we have our tail, our tail stock. The easiest way I can think to describe this is that over here is where the actual engine is. If I open up this compartment, you can see this is a drive and there's a belt here. So it's a belt-driven engine. All right, so the engine is down below. This is like our axle, and this belt is what's actually spinning it. All right, so think about the engine is like the brain of the tool. All right, so the brain is in the head. This side over here is our headstock. All right, this part over here, the easiest way I can describe this is that it moves back and forth. All right, and it moves to accommodate different size pieces. So I'm just going to use this small block of wood. I can put it into the head and then move the tail to kind of connect the two. All right, if I had a much longer part, I could slide the tail back and accommodate a bigger piece. So think about like on a dog, the tail's always moving, right? They're always wagging their tail. So the tail stock can move back and forth. All right, so head stock, tail stock. And then I want to point out that there's some pieces sticking out of our stock. All right, so there's a small piece right here, and it has a spike on it. And then there's a large spike over here that can spin. All right, these are called centers. All right, and they go into the center of our part. So I want to point out that on the head stock, the center is really spiky and it does not spin. All right, so this is called a static center. Think static like it's not moving. All right, so a static center doesn't move. It's really sharp. It's got spikes on it to kind of grab onto that part. On the tail stock, this one is a much larger spike, but it rotates. All right, there's no motor on this side to help the part spin. So in the tail stock, we have a rotating center. All right, so we have a static center on the head, rotating center on the tail. All right, the last part that I want to point out on this tool is actually this guy right here. Okay, so there's a long iron bar going across. This is called our tool rest. So when we're working with our different tools, we're actually going to rest them on that tool rest and move them side to side to do our carving. All right, so we've got head stock, tail stock, static center, live center, tool rest, and then our adjustments down here. All right, I'm going to run it in the next video. I'll see you guys there.